Hey guys, I'm gonna currently give my presentation on the invasive Indian mongoose. So, a little bit of background information. Where are they native? So, the Indian mongoose are native in Asia. So, Iran, India, Vietnam, and several other Asian countries. And you can see in the picture below, the blue is the main region of where they live. Okay, but eventually they will reach the Hawaiian Islands, so way over here. This map makes it seem like they took forever to get there, but in reality, you could have gone this way to make a shorter distance. So it's not really that far of a stretch for them appearing in Hawaii. But once they got to Hawaii, there's some issues that started to arise. But first, how did they get to there? How did they get to Hawaii? So they first arrived on the island in 1883. So in 1883, Hawaii was known for their sugarcane fields. So these mongoose were imported by the sugarcane industries. At the time, here in the picture below, right here, this is a sugarcane field. These fields at the time were infested with rats. I mean, there were so many of them. They were destroying the fields, and the farmers had no idea how to get rid of them. So they're like, you know what? We can introduce the mongoose and set them free, and they will control the populations. So they use them as predators to reduce the rat populations, which at the time was a great idea. But I think eventually, whoever thought of that idea is really kicking themselves in the foot because it has not benefited as well as what they could have thought of. So, the mongoose ways. So, talk a little bit more about the mongoose. So, these little guys have 2 to 3 litters each year. And so that's within this year they can have lay up to have young up to 3 times. And within these litters, they have the ability to have 1 to 5 pups per litter. That's actually quite a bit when you really think about it. And once these pups turn 6 weeks old, they instinctively hunt with their mothers. So that is a huge benefit for these guys. They learn at a very young age of how to, scavenger hunt and survive. They basically can, basically they are learning how to live on their own at a very young age, which is very beneficial to them. And so once they're adults, they have absolutely zero predators. There's nothing on the Hawaiian Islands that seek out mongooses or anything like that. So that's also a major factor in their survival rate and how successful they have been. Also, they have no pressure going wherever they want to on the island to hunt food or anything like that. And so to talk about a little bit, about what they hunt and their diet, it includes fruits, plants, insects, small animals, basically you name it. I think a mongoose will eat it. They're not really picky as long as they have a food source. Okay, so we'll talk about the impacts that they have. So they love to eat birds. In Hawaii, currently, there are 8 different endangered bird species, and that is basically thanks to the mongoose. So the mongoose, there's birds that lay nests near the shore of the beaches and stuff, and the mongoose come in and take their eggs and eat their eggs. And so this has impacted the bird population a lot there. You see decline greatly over the years because they have no eggs to reproduce for the next generation. And so, let's say there's no more eggs to eat for the birds because they've killed them all. Well, once they do that, the mongoose will literally scavenger hunt until it finds something else. Here in the bottom lower corner right here is a little baby turtle, sea turtle, and they are known for eating them too. And they actually put a sea turtle endangered as well on the Hawaiian Islands, the shores, because the birds are drastically dropped in population, so that food source has kind of vanished away from them. So they had to find another one. And so this is, part of the reason why they've become classified as invasive. They're destroying the ecosystem, and they're putting native animals in harm, and they're causing, drastic impacts that you can physically see to the islands in Hawaii. And so here on the left is a picture of a mongoose in a cage. He's got some nasty little teeth on him, that's for sure too. So they're not something to really mess around with. So here in a case study I found that talked about Hawaii, they found that they did a research of to observe of where these mongoose are really locating and stuff. And they found that there was a 55% increase of mongoose population where these koki frogs were present. So this picture here on the left hand side of this frog, that's a koki frog, and they're actually also invasive to Hawaii as well. But there's so many of them that these mongooses are starting to feed on them. They're actually using them as a primary source of food. They've kind of, declined the rat population enough. They've, destroyed the bird population enough, and so they've kind of moved on to this frog, and it's actually helping them. These frogs are invasive. There's tons of them, so they have a constant food supply. And so with that switch of a food source, they found that there's an increase of 35% of the bird population. And so slowly but surely, the bird population is coming back and restored, thankfully, because the mongoose have found a different food source. And so this was a graph I pulled off the article I read. And so at the bottom, it's basically the prey species richness is the tall bars. They focused on how much prey was within different seasons, and so the summer clearly had the most. So they never had, they never ran out of prey completely. But there were certain months that they were more prone to, killing more often, things like this. So I thought that was kind of neat. So the big question was, how do we remove them? So they're invasive to Hawaiian Islands. How do we get rid of them? So the conflicts occurred when management ideas were in order. Scientists put them in order that, we needed to trap these animals and just, kill them, remove them, anything we do just to get them off here. Well, other people on the island started to get attached. As you can see in this little picture, little brother, sister hugging it out. It's pretty cute. And so people were like, you know what? I think I can keep them as pets. So people started keeping them as pets. And then once they got old enough, they would just release them. So they were helping them survive, which was a bad deal. That's not really helping the cause at all. So, they had to settle with basically capturing them and removing them. People didn't want them killed. They're on the island now. I guess, can't remove them completely. So they're like, we need to relocate them away from the birds on the beach and the sea turtles on the beach. We need to move them, inland or across the island. So that's how basically our impacts or our roles to help reduce their, killing of prey. That's how we, try to settle and lower those numbers down. But I also found interesting that Hawaii basically placed fines for people who, possessed these mongoose, because it was a big deal that people were keeping them and then releasing them. So there was $1,000 per animal fine if you got caught, breeding mongoose or, holding them captive or just releasing them. So I thought that was pretty intense. They are very strict about, the spread of these mongoose because they are causing a problem. So hopefully you learned a little bit more about the Indian mongoose on the Hawaiian Islands, which I know we don't always get to visit very often. So hopefully you liked the presentation. Thank you.